Okay, Manny. Who are we probing today? Oh, come on, Manny. You said I could probe somebody.
Okay, this is UFO Buster Radio, and welcome to episode 69. Get your minds out of the gutter. It's just an episode. So today, on this episode, we have a return guest, the one, the only, the man with the plan, Ronny Dawson, is going to join us later on in this episode. But like before we get there, we're going to talk about a news article regarding a UFO situation, which popped up in the recent Express UK publication. I guess it's more like an online. Does anybody know if the Express UK has an actual paper publication? I don't know. But the online version is the one that we keep on coming across, so that's the one we're talking about. So I believe this was on March 4th. There was an article published, and the headline was, "This man claims he can summon aliens. Watch as two appear before him." Again, clickbaiting. So when you go into the article, it turns out that this is actually about the one and only Stephen Greer, the Dr. Stephen Greer. And apparently, Stephen Greer was out there summoning UFOs. So in the video, which is shot out in Vero Beach, Florida, Stephen Greer is having one of his famous or infamous or expensive UFO watching calling thingies. And according to Stephen Greer, what the people are there to do is to summon aliens, doing what he calls the CE5 protocol. According to him, using coherent thought and meditation practices, one can actually summon UFOs. Now, what the article does not tell you was that the video that's actually included, where you see these gold-colored UFOs dropping from the sky over the ocean, what the video doesn't tell you is that this actually happened back in 2015. January 27, 2015, between 9:10 and 9:15 p.m., we had the incident. So Mr. Greer was out there with this group, which I hear the cost for this is between $2,000 and $2,500 a pop, to sit out there on the beach and summon UFOs. Well, apparently, according to this video, it actually happened. So there's one thing to note in this. In the video, Stephen Greer is heard a few times saying that he's using either like a night scope or infrared in order to look at these items, kind of to validate what's going on. However, the video, which I actually went to the series disclosure website in order to find the original date, the video does not include any footage other than the standard video. There's no infrared, there's no night footage, but you can hear him claiming that from what he sees, there's no contrail, there's no other aircraft. He also proclaims that these are not conventional aircraft. And then he urges the participants of this event to thank the aliens consciously. Now, the reason why this really hasn't been such a big deal in the UFO community is because most of the ufology pros came out back in 2015 and automatically dismissed this as regular old flares. Now we know that flares being dropped from military planes is the go-to for any kind of sighting. The people in Arizona know that very well, right, Phoenix? Even the folks at OpenMinds.tv, even they seem to support the idea that these were just flares. Just had nothing to do with it being an actual alien craft. Or should I say two. Now, the article that was published this past couple of days actually has a statement from Scott Brando, who is part of the hoax-busting website UFOofinterest.org, stating that Stephen Greer's twin golden-orbed UFO incident video was debunked a long time ago. Now, the article doesn't tell you how it was debunked or who did the debunking, so you're going to have to do a little research, kind of like I did, and pretty much the majority of people out there who wrote about this back in 2015 felt that it was just good old flares. That Stephen Greer didn't call anything down, that it was not an ET appearance. My other concern here is if someone like Stephen Greer is going to make claims like this on video, posted onto his Serious Disclosure website as an actual event, how can he be taken seriously at all? How can people continue to buy his videos, his DVDs, see him at conferences, when he's pretty much publishing a claim which apparently he didn't do the slightest bit of evidencing to ensure that what he's reporting was factual? I would think that someone who's a ufologist, who has something so profound and was the founder of CSETI, would have ensured that there was all kinds of different technology there to validate and revalidate what his claims were. But we don't see that. So maybe this will be a lesson learned for Stephen Greer and for the folks who paid all that money. But then again, without having any evidence to the contrary, can we really just say it was all just flares? With that said, let's move on to the interview with Ronny Dawson. All right, folks, you read the title, and we have back with us again Ronny Dawson. Ronny, how are you?
I'm doing good, Manny. It's good to be here.
Listen, I've been thinking about having you back for a while, and I'm glad you're here.
Oh yeah, I've been really busy, but it's always good to be back on the UFO Buster Radio show. This is back home for me. You guys are out of Dallas, and I'm at a Ranger over here, about 80 miles away.
Well, we're glad that you're here. So, right now, it's almost a year since you've been here, actually, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been about a year.
So, what's been happening in that year?
It's been an exciting year. I've had a lot going on. I actually was on last September. I was contacted by the Japanese TV industry, and they came over here and did a caught on camera episode here in Ranger, Texas. It was my first TV premiere, first time I've been on TV. And so these guys they brought a camera crew out of L.A. and the producer flew from Japan into Dallas. And they rented a van and drove out to my house here in Ranger, Texas. And even the translator couldn't speak very good English.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we've filmed about a day and a half. And out of that day and a half of filming, I probably got 15 minutes just telling my story on Japanese TV. They had a caught on camera, I think it's about an hour-long episode over there, and 15 minutes of it was donated to my sighting, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is amazing. That's like international attention.
It seems like internationally people know who I am, but here in the United States, I've never even made the local news over here. Now, the local news lady was over here snooping around. We invited her in. She took some pictures and stuff, but it never even made the local paper, so over here, and I think it was about a month ago, I made blasting news over in Italy. So my 2011 sighting is still making international news. But here in the United States, I hadn't even got local news coverage. So it's almost like they don't pay no attention to me. They just ignore me. But worldwide, I'm getting the attention.
Yeah, that is so strange, especially when, like I was saying last week, that most of the sightings worldwide actually happen here in the U.S.
Yeah. Just like, I was on Metro News over in the UK, and famed ufologist Nigel Watson had great things to say about my sighting, but over here in the United States, I never even made the local paper.
Yeah, isn't that something? So how did the actual episode with the Japanese crew, how did that go?
It went. I never had been cussed at before in Japanese. I'm not much of a TV person. They told me to quit looking at the camera. So,
oh, really?
Whenever you're taking pictures, you're supposed to look at the camera. I guess whenever you're making making videos or you're going to be on TV, they don't want you looking at the camera. They want you looking at the producers. So they kept getting on to me to don't look at the camera, don't look at the camera. So, but yeah, it was pretty funny, and we finally got the finished product, and they had a guy that played me. I guess they had a guy that played me. They had a guy that played my wife, which was funny because she really wasn't even in the story. She wasn't living here at the house when a lot of that happens, and they just put her in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like they just they fabricated parts of the story. The basis of the story was the real deal, but a lot of it was they had added stuff and they had a guy playing me, in certain scenes. They had a guy playing my wife, and my wife nodded off on the sofa, and she's like, "That ain't how it happened." So yeah, it's pretty funny. I've been doing a lot of radio shows too. Jason Hawes and JB Johnson have a Beyond Reality radio show. I did the last show of last year, December 29th. I did their show, which is a real popular show. Jason Hawes, he's the ghost hunter on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Right.
They have a radio show, and I've been doing some Monster Castle Paranormal radio shows, and some of those shows are like 3 hours, and then sometimes they have an after show that's 3 hours even after the original show ends. So I've been spending a lot of time on the air late at night. But
so we have a lot of people that are new to the show, and they may not necessarily know your story. So can we tell them about it?
Yeah, I can give them kind of a synopsis of everything that went on. Like I said, I'm not a guy. I haven't seen aliens my whole life. In fact, I never saw anything until about 2010. And I work out in the oil field out here around Ranger, and we were seeing these mystery spheres flying through the trees. We seen these things dropping to the ground, sitting for a second, and then popping back up 100 feet, and then disappearing. And so we were seeing some unusual stuff out here in the oil field when I work nights out here, and I'm seeing all this stuff. And then a little bit later on, I started actually seeing some UFO craft, which is really, really just seeing the spheres and stuff like that flying through the trees and doing odd lights, doing odd things is pretty exciting and fascinating. But when you actually see the first craft, that is a mind-bending experience, to say the least. And the first craft I seen was over a rural vacation home, and it was not even at night. It was in the late afternoon. This thing was black, and it was thin, and I actually thought it was, I thought somebody was burning some tires or something. And I thought, well, maybe the house is on fire, and I need to call 911. And then as I got closer, these 4 big, huge white lights came on in it, and then the thing started moving away from the house, and I could see at that point that it was certainly a craft unlike anything I've seen before, and a good sized one too. And it actually moved off, and I broke my camera out to take a picture of it, and my camera froze up. And I had good batteries and everything, and it was a fully functional camera, and I had the UFO in sight, and I tried to take a picture of it, and my camera, the lens extended like it's supposed to, and then everything just went black, and the batteries were completely dead. And the camera completely toasted. Yeah, I put new batteries in it, and to this day, it's just like it was. It extended fully, and then just nothing. It lost all power, and you can put new batteries in it, and it is completely dead. There's nothing you can do to make it power back up.
So have you had that camera tested?
No, I still got the camera, and they put it on Japanese TV. Even they held it up, and I explained what happened to it. But I still have the camera. Who knows, if the circuits got fried or what the deal was. But I still have the camera. And like I said, and then I seen another one, and the thing was, I was seeing a lot of craft in a short period of time. I had seen 2 in 7 days. I had seen another one over by Rising Star, Texas, and it wasn't that far away. It was maybe 200 yards away, and it wasn't a big craft like the other one. It was a small one, and it was hovering out there in the field, and I didn't know why it was out there in the field. Kind of thought, these things, I'm watching these things, but these things are watching me, so I was going to be sneaky. I was going to grab my phone and get a quick picture of it. I was acting like I didn't see it, and it was just sitting there. And as soon as I grabbed my phone off the dash of the truck and drew it up to fire to take the quick shot of it, the thing tilted and just blinked out.
Wow.
And so I knew that I was watching them, but they were watching me too. That was 2 in 7 days. So I called my buddy Alan Oster. I said, man, I'm seeing a lot of UFO craft out here, and I want to do, and I'm having a hard time getting some pictures of them. And I said, and when I do get a picture of them, what I want to do, I explained to him I wanted to get this. I had a high-powered 250 milliwatt hand laser that shoots a green beam about 10 miles. Bought it from China. I had to take a Class B hand laser license test to get the thing. So it's a pretty powerful laser. It's more powerful than you'd want for a classroom laser, and it shoots a beam about 10 miles. And what I was wanting to do, I was wanting to get a picture of the UFO. I was thinking that, if I could get some beam deviation, because I'd been reading a lot of stuff about the UFO's propulsion systems cause headlights of cars to be in and stuff like that. And I was thinking that, if I could get a video of this craft, which you're taking a picture of a UFO at night, you're getting light against the darkness, and people can say, oh, that's just street lights, But
Right.
the thing is, my thinking was, I was trying to think outside the box, and I was thinking, if I got this laser and I shoot this laser up there, and this beam deviates towards the craft, and we can get it on video, we'll really have something, And my friend Alan Oster still agreed to help me, and so we went to his house, and sure enough, we weren't going to see anything, and there was jets in the area, and I thought, man, we're not going to see anything with these jets flying around. Then the next thing you know, the jets left. And it wasn't 5 minutes after jets left that all of a sudden and he's the first one to see it. He goes, man, look. And there's like a big, huge 4-light craft that was probably 100 yards long appeared, maybe 400 yards from us. And I said, that's it. And I pulled that laser out, and I fired that laser all the way around it and on it. And I fired it on the surface of the craft to see it reflected or anything. Well, see, Alan was sitting over there. Alan's job was to grab the camera and record this whole thing. That was the whole point of having the camera over by him. But Alan had never seen a UFO before, and he just sat there gawking at the thing,
Yeah, he was
I said,
frozen like a deer in headlights.
Yeah, I said, I hope you're catching this. And then he realized that he's supposed to have the camera. He was sitting there watching this thing. Watching me shoot the laser, and it was scary shooting the laser around this thing, because I'm like, if they misinterpret this laser for some kind of a weapon,
Right.
They could find our scorched remains laying there on the ground,
Yep.
And it was frightening as hell to shoot this laser up there around that UFO. And who knows how the aliens would interpret or how they would feel about this. And I looked over at Alan, and he was just gawking at the thing, and the camera lay there right beside him. And I said, Alan, we got to at least get a picture of it, And so he ran for the camera. I put the laser down and ran for the camera. And by the time we got to the camera, and before the display even opened up, the thing just blinked completely out, So we didn't get any pictures of it. I did shine the laser around it. Unfortunately, I didn't see the beam deviation that I was hoping I would get. And I would find out about 2 days later how they felt about me doing this little test on their UFO, because what happened was they invaded my home here in Ranger, Texas.
Yeah, they got up close and personal, huh?
They got up close and personal and came in my house, and they basically they held me hostage in bed. I don't know how they did it. It wasn't like I'd been laying in bed long. It was like my feet had just left the floor. I had just laid down, and these guys pinned me in that bed with some kind of a beam or something. I didn't see any light or nothing. All I know is it felt like somebody had stacked 600 pounds of bricks on me, and I could lay there in bed comfortably, but as soon as you try to fight it, you feel the force holding you down, and if you fight it hard enough, you get a lot of pain too. You get it it affects your heart and your breathing if you really fight it hard. So you're basically just trapped there in bed. Then these things come in the house, and I can hear them ransacking the house. And I have a cat in my house, and he retreated into the bedroom where I was at, jumped up on the bed with me. These things are ransacking my house, running around, and they were moving so fast when they were running by my doorway. My eyes could not focus on them. I'd never seen anything move this quick. I mean, you literally cannot see these things. You can't focus on them. They move so fast. But two of them were in the house. A third one came in, and he actually stopped in front of the door. And as soon as he stopped, he became visible, just as clear as daylight. I could see him perfectly clear. And this little thing was about 18 inches tall, had a face like an old man. It either had a tight-fitting body armor or it was an exoskeleton. I don't know which. And a very ugly-looking thing. And it was quite frightening. I was sitting there trapped in the bed thinking, my God, I hope they don't come in here. But he looked at the other two, and then all three of them ran into my bedroom and ran up underneath my bed. And then they were bouncing the hell out of me on my bed. And there was nothing I could do. I was still trapped in the bed. The cat took off. So I seen where I'm trapped, but the cat jumped on the bed with me, but he could move. So it was strange how he could move, but I could not. But he took off, and I didn't see anything chasing him. So I'm being bounced in the bed. Finally, they stopped bouncing me in the bed, and I'm thinking, thank goodness. But the bad thing is that at that point, they started digging. They started digging at the mattress underneath. And,
so it sounds like they were looking for something.
It sounded like they were gutting the mattress, but they were digging up under the box springs. And they hit there was like a wire surface on top of the box springs, or they couldn't dig through the mattress to get to me. And I thought that may have been what they were trying to do. So I was like, I was freaking out at that point thinking, man, I'm going to die here. So I got pretty pissed off. And I had decided that I was going to yell at these suckers, get the hell out of here, and jump out of the bed. And I had a golf club in the corner, and I was going to grab the golf club and go to town on these things. And then I couldn't do anything. Well, a few minutes later, they got over to where the laser was being kept. And once they got to where the laser was being kept, a lot of the activity stopped. And I never seen them leave the room, but all of a sudden, like I think about 5 minutes had went by when I had tried to jump out of the bed and yell at them and grab the golf club. 5 minutes had gone by, and all of a sudden my body, it was like they released me, and the signals I sent from my brain to my muscles all of a sudden I just jumped out of bed, yelled at them, grabbed the golf club, and was angry as hell.
I bet you were being restrained that way.
So yeah, then I go on a big alien hunt all through my house, closing cabinet doors and looking through all the dark spots and stuff. And then I go back in the bedroom and realize, man, they opened my gun cabinet up and I had a shotgun there. I've been walking around the house looking for aliens with a golf club, and I had a perfectly good working shotgun available. But I was just thinking that the cabinet was locked, but it wasn't. Somehow or another, they unlocked it too. They were looking for the laser, I think, and I thought the laser would be missing. But when I looked in the box where the laser was there.
Oh, so they never got to it, huh?
They never took it, or maybe they just looked at it, examined it, and left it, or they never found it. I don't know which. And and I couldn't really tell anybody the story because who was going to believe that? Nobody's going to believe it.
It's an amazing story.
I put it in my book, and and even my girlfriend's like, "You never told me that." I'm like, why? Why would I? Because you're not gonna believe it anyway,
Right.
But when I wrote the book, I went ahead and came out with it, told everybody the whole story, because the most amazing part of the story happened a year later. I went for a year and didn't see anything. And I thought, well, they're done. They're through with me. And the odd thing is, you're kind of, when something scary like that happens, it scares you for a while. And then you kind of like, man, I guess I'll never see anything like that again. And because I went a year and didn't see anything. But I was down in Coleman, Texas, just working one night. And then all of a sudden things went crazy, man. I pulled up on a location out there in Coleman County, and all of a sudden I seen a 3-light craft take off from the ground, and then the thing looked like it was going to pass right over my truck, and then I was hanging out of my window up to the waist to get a good look at it, grabbing my phone so I could take a picture of it, and the thing it was coming right at me, and I just couldn't see it. Just disappeared. It just went dark. It should have passed right over me, and I couldn't see it, and I had a feeling they didn't leave, that they were still out there, and sure enough, they were out there. A little bit later, the light came on over the field near me, And it did the strangest thing. It landed on the ground over there, and I got the video running, and the thing went up in the air, went about 100 yards, and went right back down to the ground. And I thought, wow, that was amazing. I just caught that on video. I was going to catch the craft sitting on the ground. I did not know it was going to take a leapfrog like it did. So I actually caught this 100-yard leapfrog, this craft did. And then this thing sat there on the ground for a second, and then it shot up, and then it took off. And it's flashing yellow, blue, green, and it looked like a shiny disc, and it was just taking off, and it traveled about a mile. And on the video, you could see it traveling 1 mile in 2 seconds. And I calculated that out. It works out to about 1,800 miles per hour.
Now that's extremely quick. And you said you actually have the entire event on the video.
Yeah, I've got that on the video. I actually caught that whole thing on video. And then the craft, it went about a mile, it stopped. And then a little bit later, it came back. And then it appeared over the field again, so I got some more pictures on my phone. And then the thing did something that it's cool and it's fun seeing UFO lights, but then all of a sudden the UFO lights started moving straight at me. My truck is sitting there running. I'm hooked up to the tanks, and it's lit up like a baseball field. I've got lights all over this thing, and this thing just keeps coming, and it just keeps coming. And I'm sitting there going, wow, that's getting close. That's getting close. And at one point I thought, oh man, I'm going to have to go hide. They're coming to take me or something, So it quit being fun, quit being cool. It started being scary, It's cool to watch a sci-fi horror, but it's not fun to be in one. And I just got in one. And all of a sudden this thing, I was amazed at it, and then I realized I need to get the hell out of here. And then I looked up and seen the circular part of the disc moving between the black sky and the stars above me. And at that point, it shocked me, and I guess I had I don't know, it's like the soldiers have shock syndrome, My knees went to shaking so bad that I couldn't run, I couldn't hardly walk. So I stumbled down the stairs of the catwalk I was standing on. I hid between the tanks and was watching this thing right above my head. And I thought, man, this is a flammable tank. One shot from a laser and the whole place is going to blow up. So I decided that I can't stand there. So I decided I'd walk over next to this separator, which is a few feet away, and offer me a little. So I wobbled over there, and I looked straight up, and I could see the edge of the disc, and I could see that there's like a compartment underneath this thing, and there's some red stretchy light. There's not a light source. It was like a glowing red fog, and this thing was glowing red fog, and it was very close. And I even wiped my eyes thinking I had water in my eyes, but it was real stretchy light, like a real strong magnetism or something was causing the light to act funny. And so from my hiding space, I thought, well, I'm too scared to run through the trees, and I'm in my hiding place, so I thought, I'm going to try to get a picture. So I leaned around the separator I was hiding behind to get a picture, and right before I took the picture, this huge white light came on inside this compartment underneath the thing. And in that compartment, there was something standing head and shoulders, and it almost looks like it's got a point on its head, like it's got a horn right in the top center of its head. And I caught all that on the picture. And I was sitting there, and then I hid, and I think, oh man, the lights are on, they're fixing it. And I looked around me, and all I could see was darkness, and I had this bad feeling that something was going to come from the dark and grab me. And it was a terrible feeling, man. It was like I'm just waiting for something with slimy, long fingers to come over and grab me out from the darkness, It was a horrifying experience to be there and to have to be through that. And I'm shaking, I'm scared, but I did manage I got one picture of the thing, and so I'm sitting there hiding, waiting on something to grab me, and all of a sudden this thing, it starts slowly backing away, and I start getting some relief, thank goodness, man, this thing's backing away. This thing backed away, then there's a U.S. military jet.
Oh, really?
Came right over my head, so low that I could see the outline of it clearly. And it came right over me, right where the UFO was, and the UFO just went out there, and the lights went out on it. It's like it just went into stealth or something. I never see it took off or anything. It backed off a couple 100 yards, and the lights just turned off. And this jet went right over the top of me, right over the top where the UFO was, and then circled back and headed back towards Dice Air Force Base in Abilene. And so I'm sitting there thinking, hell yeah, the cavalry just saved my ass. And, I was never so proud to be an American at this point. It's like, thank goodness, man, the U.S. Air Force just saved my ass. And but the jet, it didn't do a searching pattern. It did a big sweep and then headed back. And I noticed there was another jet that came and did a sweep the other direction and then headed back. So they didn't stick around like they were searching for something. They just came and did a big sweep and left. Well, later I would kind of put two and two together that the reason they did this is because I don't realize it at this point in the story, but 10 minutes later, there's this huge mothership came in right over the top of my location.
Oh, really? Another one?
Another one, and this one was like if this thing would have crashed on the ground, you would literally need a golf cart to drive around it. It was like a V-shaped craft. Each side of the V was probably a half mile. And when this thing came right over the top of my head, it was over my head 100 yards each direction. So you could have went 100 yards in each direction and it would still have been over your head. It was a massive, huge craft, like you could barely imagine it. And this thing passed over me, it looked like solid rock on the bottom of it. And it actually looked like a V-shaped rock on the bottom with a city built on the surface of it. On the top side of it, there are structures, there are towers. You can see these glowing blue fluorescent power lines stretched across the surface of it. You could see a row of flares burning like there's like some kind of refinery process is going on. The buildings had an odd... It didn't really look like our kind of buildings. It looked like 2 to 3 story buildings, and it looked like they had like some kind of spray on coating, like something had sprayed coating on the whole place, And this thing, when it kind of pendulated over the top of my head, like a leaf floating. I mean, it was probably a couple 100 feet up. So even at night without any lights on the bottom of it, I could clearly see the rocky surface. I could see it looked like impact craters on the bottom of it, like it had impacted with stuff. It wasn't a smooth, shiny surface by no means. It looked like solid rock, and it looked like rock that had been hit with meteors and stuff.
So, Ronny, these two ships, were they kind of like silent the whole time?
Yeah, the small one had just disappeared. I never seen where it went, and then a little bit later, there was a light circling over my head for quite a while, and it kind of spiraled down. And as it got really lower, finally it came out of an area you could see the sky discoloration. It got like foggy up in the sky, and this thing came out of it like a spear tip. And what I thought was going to be a small craft turned out to be a monstrously huge craft. And it's like watching the Battlestar Galactica fly over your head. I mean, I wish every person in the world could have been there holding my hand to watch it with me. It's a damn shame that I was the only one there. Because, this, why they were there, what they were doing there, and the fact that our military jets patrolled the area and made sure there wasn't any aircraft around before this thing came in makes me think that our government either knew about it or perhaps these guys are even using our own jets against us to sweep the skies for this mothership's entry. There's a lot of questions I've got as to why the jets were there, why the jets didn't see anything, and I did. And in fact, I have a buddy that worked in the tower at Abilene Regional Airport, and he said that the military had told him there was training exercises in that area and to avoid that area if possible.
Oh, there you go. That's interesting.
They knew something's going on. And I can guarantee this isn't our craft. This is anti-gravity technology to the lengths and depths that we've never even imagined. This is a flying rock with a floating city, with a city built on the surface of it. And it's so big. Like I said, if it would have crashed on the ground, you would literally need a golf cart to drive around it.
So altogether, how long was your experience? How long was this incident?
I seen this whole thing took like 20 minutes. 20 to 30 minutes. I was there a solid 30 minutes, I know, at least, when all this stuff was going on. And it didn't end there. I mean, but I caught some video of the big craft, too. And I had taken so many pictures with my phone, and at that time, in 2011, we didn't have smartphones.
Right.
I had a Samsung Tundra. It was one of the first phones that had came out. It was a military-grade phone, and the reason I had gotten the phone was because I was seeing some stuff, and it was one of the first phones that had video capabilities. So that was the reason I was catching some video. Well, I caught after this thing, it kind of, like I said, it pendulated over my head, and it tilted up, and it started shooting up in the air like a skyscraper. And then when this thing took off, I mean, I would have never dreamed that something so big could move that fast. And I mean, when this thing, it made a 90-degree transition so smooth that you could have been standing on the thing and not lost your balance. I mean, it went from one direction to another direction so slow, so smooth. But after it made its directional change, This thing, I mean, it took off so fast you could hear the air rushing to fill the void that it created. It was like a vacuum, a suction. You could see air vortexes forming on both sides of it. This thing took off. And then, I mean, literally, I was holding my phone, waiting on a good shot because I knew I had very little memory and waiting for something to get a good. I was like, I got one more chance to get a shot of this thing. And this thing took off so fast, I literally thought, I panicked because I thought I was going to miss it altogether. It was going so fast. And it took off. And I looked for it, the display screen, and I could not see it. This thing filled the sky. I had a sky full of UFO and nothing in my display screen. And you talk about disappointing, man. Like, where is it? You can see it with the naked eye, it's clear as day, but in the display screen, there's nothing but black, And I thought, I'm going to miss it altogether if I don't. I held the eye at it, and I pushed the record button, and this thing, all of a sudden it flipped. It did a transition and came back at me, and I was still recording when it did this. And so when you look at the video I took, it looks like I'm standing up in the air looking down on it. But the great thing is I got a picture of what was on the surface of it, and before all I had seen was the bottom of it. So I got a good picture of what was on the top of this thing. Finally, and in this video, I mean, it is amazing. I've had so many people say, "Oh, they've tried to debunk it." I've had experts from all over the world look at this thing, and they told me what camera I took it with, and I used some software to brighten it. They told me what software I used to brighten it and how much brightness I added to it. I mean, to that degree, and they said that they cannot debunk it. It's not debunkable, and it's the left-hand side of a huge UFO mothership. And it's an amazing video, and you can look on YouTube, Man Escapes Alien Abduction with pictures to prove it, and that video is on there, and you can see it. But some of the best pictures I got in 2014 when software came out that allowed me to get some better still frames of the thing. I went from 7 still frame images of the large craft to 24, and those 24 frames are absolutely mind-blowing. And I'm going to take some of them to the Aurora, Texas show. So anybody of you guys want to come down there and see me and Manny Moonraker at this Aurora, Texas UFO Festival, I'm going to have some of these pictures with me, and I'll show you what a UFO, and I can show you what an alien looks like. And I'm not talking the little gray aliens either. I'm talking some aliens on top of this huge UFO mothership that are 40 feet tall. As wild, as crazy as it sounds, I've got some pictures of them.
Yeah, those are some big aliens. I definitely would be hiding somewhere.
But I got some good pictures of them, and people say, that's not real. Hey, nobody has, nobody's, if I tried to fake it, they would have got me years ago, man. There's nothing fake about this. And in fact, a lot of people I've given it to come up with pictures that are probably better than mine, going, wow. Yeah, that's the real deal, there's nothing, but the thing is, it's nobody famous has came out and said, hey, this guy's pictures are real deal, you need to pay attention. So here I'm just a small-time Joe doing radio shows trying to convince the world that I caught something.
Was that the last incident that you had?
As I left that location and was headed down the road, there was a light over a mobile home that set out in a field. And I looked and I said, that is not a star. It looks like a star, but it's not a star. It's too close to be a star. So I stopped my truck, and sure enough, over these people's house, and there was somebody in that house too. I stopped and I started shining my spotlight in my truck at it. And at that point, I didn't have any memory left in my camera. I couldn't take a picture to save my life. And it's too bad too, because I had an excellent opportunity here to get an awesome shot. And I started shining my light at it. I started blowing my horn at the house, trying to get somebody's attention. And it's really scary, I don't know these people from nothing, but when you realize there's a huge UFO sitting over somebody's house, and that somebody's home inside there, a family, who knows what, that is a terrible feeling, man. It's just, I can't explain, how it makes you feel, worried about what's going on in there with these people, And when I started causing a commotion and making attention, this thing started moving away. And as it moved away, I could see a triangle opening in the bottom of it. I never could see what the craft looked like. I could see a triangle opening in the bottom of it, and inside the triangle were round, whitish lights of the same color that I had seen on all the other craft. This whitish blue lights, and there was round circles incorporated into the triangle opening in the bottom of it, all the way around. And inside the craft, I could actually see from the ground really good. And it's a damn shame I didn't have nothing to picture with. And it was the most intricate piping that you had ever seen. I mean, there looked like turbo lines, and there was stuff like all along the walls, huge spiral shape where the pipe went from wide into a tight circle, like turbos or something like that. It was almost like looking under the hood of a Ferrari or something, man. The high tech, the way this thing was laid out, and the piping almost looked like intestines on a creature or something. I mean, it was just so intricately laid out, and it was just wild looking inside there. I didn't see any creatures inside there, but I could see all this piping and plumbing stuff. And this thing just slowly, it didn't shoot off or nothing. It just slowly moved away from me until I couldn't see it anymore. And I headed back to town, and I was posting stuff to my wife and everybody else, going, "Oh my God, you wouldn't believe what happened." I was telling everybody that would listen.
So do you think that any of these, it's 2017, it's been some time. Do you think any of these originate from, let's say, a U.S. government?
I don't think so, man. I mean, just the way that big ship looked, there wasn't anything about it that looked like something we'd build. Even if we had the technology, even if we had anti-gravity technology, I mean, the buildings on it wouldn't look like this. And you could tell that who these guys are, they're really not worried so much with architectural beauty. This thing wasn't by no means beautiful. I mean, it had to be high tech, but it looked more like a flying wasp nest than it did a modern city. I mean, they had some huge flares, and they were blowing fire out of them. And there was a row of them. I know there was at least 4 of them, and they were blowing fire out like there was some kind of refinery process going on. Like maybe they had, and I'd heard some people told me, they were probably just coming in the atmosphere to catch nitrogen and oxygen and other stuff, and they probably just entered the atmosphere to catch, inert gases and stuff. This thing was monstrously huge, man, and it's a dadgum shame that I'm the only one there to see it. I wish the whole world could have been there with me to see that thing, man. And when this thing, it scared the hell, like it went, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to miss it altogether. And then 1 second later, I literally said, oh my God, it's coming back. I got to hide. I mean, that's how fast this thing was flip-flopping back and forth. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to miss it. Oh my God, it's coming back. And then it made a big circle around my location, and it shot up in the sky at a 45-degree angle so fast that it literally went from being a half-mile ship 1 second to being some lights moving through the sky 3 seconds later.
So the aliens that you saw, is it, are they like any way, what we're accustomed seeing, when we hear UFO stories, you have things like reptilians, you have greys, you have insectoids. Are they any one of those, or is it like totally different species, I guess?
I didn't really see any. I was looking for alien architecture. I was looking for machinery. And I had this lady going off on YouTube after I'd posted a video going, man, there's a huge alien creature out there. And I'm going, what are you talking about? And I literally had to tell the lady, can you circle it for me? And once she circled it for me, I was like, my God. I wasn't looking for creatures on the surface of this thing. I was looking for other stuff, but once she circled it for me, it was like, my goodness, man. And then the more I looked at it, the more detail you could see. And it was like a 4-legged lion with horns on it. And, I mean, and I've seen several, one looks like a mammal, and another one looks like an insectoid. And I found a third one on there. It looks almost like a dragon. It's like standing on a high tower, and it's overlooking the area, and it's got horns on its head, and it looks like you could even see the scales on its back. So and then the little creatures that were in my house, this is like a federation of aliens. This is not like one species or another. These are several different type of aliens, and none of them were the little gray aliens that everybody talks about seeing. Any little gray aliens. But, I got contacted later by an MIB guy, a man in black guy contacted me, and we had an extensive conversation, and this guy seemed like he knew everything there was to know about them, what planets they came from and everything else. And then he explained to me that he was an alien hybrid that works for the U.S. government, secret space program up there, and they monitor incoming and outgoing aliens. And I'm thinking, wow, if this guy's a liar, he's a damn good one.
So when did that happen? When did that incident happen?
This happened after I'd posted the video and was starting to get a lot of hits and stuff on it. And then the guy, he proved to me that he was what he said he was, because we were having an extensive conversation, and I was saving a lot of our conversation. And then the guy scolded me. He said, look, I know you're saving our conversation, and I can't have that. And I ain't supposed to be talking to you in the first place. And, at this point, the guy was being so nice to me. He even offered to come and take me for a ride, He said, man, I might pop in and give you a ride, And I was going, yeah, that would be cool. I would love that, And then I pissed him off because I was saving our conversation, and he scolded me. And I said, look, man, I'm really sorry, and I don't mind deleting them. And he said, never mind. He said, I've taken care of that for you. And sure enough, I went to where I was saving the conversation, gone. I had shared the conversation with a friend of mine. I asked him if he had a copy. He looked at his computer, gone. It was all gone. They took it all out.
Yeah, well, I recently read about an MIB incident where it was just one. You usually hear about two, a pair, but it was one, and that one actually was asking the individual that he was following if he wanted to get a ride and go somewhere with him. And you just said the same thing. That's incredible.
Yeah, and it's a shame, I would have really liked to have kept stay good with him, and I don't know. I was just saving the conversation because we were talking about some amazing stuff. He was talking about some kind of cataclysmic event the Earth is going to go through, and the arrangements were being hastily made for us to go to somewhere else. Nobody would be forced to go. The way you would get to the big ship you would have to go to the nearest is an ascension pad, and you would have to be butt-ass naked when you get on this thing because they got to kill all the bacteria and stuff on you before they'll let you go to the other planet. And they said, nobody be forced to go. He said, but he suggested if you want to live, it'd be a good idea to go. And he said, all this is coming up in the future at some point. And I was, like, okay, that is wild, And I said, yeah. And they said the guys that came in here that I seen, he said, these are some guys that under a 1,000-year treaty not to be here. And he said these guys had some recent technology advances that are allowing them to get through their defenses. And he did more of a thorough job investigating my sighting than MUFON did because he was filing a treaty violation for the secret space program, from what he said.
Oh, that's incredible. We've been hearing a lot about that also.
Yeah, and he said, these guys ain't supposed to be here, and he thinks that when all this goes down, they're going to try to come and abduct a bunch of people. And he said I was really lucky not to have been taken, and he talked like these are the bad guys. But I'm not so sure, I mean, they could have killed me, but they didn't, So who's to say who's the bad guys, And I sit there, I give it a lot of thought, man. That'd be pretty scary to go to an ascension pad and wonder if you're going to be ascending into a meat grinder. Who's the bad guys, man?
Right, onto
I don't know
somebody's
who the bad guys are. Right. You're really rolling the dice there. Really rolling the dice.
So, like I was saying, it's 2017. When you look at the entire incident, what does it mean for you? Do you ever think, like, why did I go through this?
There's nothing special about me. I'm just an old truck driver. I work hard most of my life, and I'm not intelligent or smart or skilled in any way, form, or fashion. And, sometimes I almost wonder if I'm a test subject for disclosure. I mean, they have disclosed to me that the aliens exist. They are here, and they're moving around among us, and they're certainly flying in our skies over our heads. And they're just seeing how I react. And the way it's working out so far is, you have to. And I think when people say, "Oh, people would freak out, they would go crazy," that is not true, man. I've had aliens in my house. I've seen huge spacecraft fly over my head. But, the fact is, Manny, if I don't pay my electric bill, they're still going to shut off my electricity. I still work for a living doing the same thing. I live in the same house the aliens were in. I work at the same job, driving the same truck that I was driving when they flew the ship over my head. It's not like I can't afford to freak out. I had to deal with it. My world got a lot more mysterious, and I appreciate, it was amazing. That was one of the most amazing things in my life, seeing that. Because I know now, we don't have to live like this, man. They had anti-gravity technology right there, waving it under my nose like a hungry rat looking at a piece of cheese, man. Our whole world could change in a year if we just had that one thing, that technology that they showed me right there that they have. And exported it freely, and it's like, so who's the good guys? And that's my big question is, who are the good ones and who are the bad ones? I know for a fact they're here. I'm not so sure the guys that came and see me were the bad ones, like this guy was saying,
Right.
The other guys have been here and they're keeping it secret from us. These guys, they don't care who knows. They don't care. And these guys, I think, they may cause us to have disclosure because they're not like the other guys. These guys that come here and show everybody they're here. And they don't care who knows they're here.
So is there anything right now? I mean, something must have changed. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't go through an experience like that and life is just normal.
Yeah, it's, and I know it's a struggle just getting people to believe it. It's a struggle getting people to think you're just not some guy feeding them full of crap, man. And I see now the people who have UFO experiences. I see the reason they don't say anything. I bet you probably for every UFO story ever told, there's 4 never told. Because people don't want to go through the ridicule. I've been through so much ridicule. I've had people sharing my public information online. I have been blasted and called names. I've been called an attention seeker. I've been, I don't need it. I don't like attention, man. I hate attention. I'm the type of guy, I walk into a convenience store and there's too many people in there, I walk out.
Right.
I'm not an attention seeker. That's not who I am as a person, and I'm not a liar, and I told people, I will get a Bible, put my hand on it, stand on my grandmother's grave and swear that I'm telling the truth. And if you knew who my grandmother was, if you told a lie like that, she would reach up out of that grave and slap you right off there. So, it's just trying to get people, hey, I'm going to show everybody in the world my pictures and my video if they want to look at it. And, I'm never going to get rich doing it. And I just want people to know that they're out there. I want people to know that this is not crap. And I wish I had some world-class experts using some world-class software to help me make this the best, most visible, researched piece of video footage in the world. And it should be. I thought after all this happened, I'd have a NASA van parked in front of my house. I thought, my God, it's going to be in the news. There's going to be, and nothing. You can't fly a half-mile ship in like this. Now you have to consider Dyess Air Force Base is 68 miles. Abilene Regional Airport is 58 miles. 132 miles away is Snyder. They have a 600-mile military radar. You can't tell me that you could fly a half-mile craft in there and nobody can see it on radar. I just refuse to believe it. If that's the case, we need to start putting guys in towers again on hillsides.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody's seen something, somebody knows something, and it's time to come clean with what they know. And
so now, I did notice after we had the interview with you last year, you're even doing your own investigating, aren't you?
Yeah, like I said, I've had to learn everything myself, and I've talked to some pretty famous people, and it's funny how most of the people that support me start out criticizing me.
Oh, really?
and Antonio Perez, he was the guy who's researching the WOW signal lately. It was in the news, I was actually talking to him, and he said, look, Ron, he said, if you could just find a star field in the background of the craft, he said, you don't have to have houses and trees and stuff like that to determine how big it is. He goes, all I really need is an identifiable star field. So people like that help me because it gives me an idea of what to look for.
Right. So
I start scanning through the still frames, and I have I have the sky map up, and I'm looking at the stars in that area and the clarity level of that night in question and everything, and I'm looking at what stars would have been visible, looking this direction, and then I start scanning through the UFO footage frame by frame, and sure enough, man, I found him a starfield pattern with the monolithic mothership, and it was like there's no doubt, and I posted them side by side and said, here are the stars, here's the craft, and he said, wow, that is big and that is amazing. But yet again, he didn't go on a public platform for me either,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's a university professor. His job and his whole career be on the line. He's not willing to go to that length to say, man, this guy has got something amazing. But personally, he said, what you got is amazing. And that's all I can do is try to show the people who will listen.
Exactly. And you have to get the story out because it's stories like these that are pivotal in moving this forward.
Oh, yeah. And, and disclosure is probably going to come from the bottom up, not from the top down.
I mean, I believe that completely and utterly. That's the only way it's going to happen.
Right.
So what does the future hold for Ronny Dawson?
I've got the book out there. I got the book out, Ronny Dawson UFO Story. It's on Barnes and Noble. It's an ebook right now. I got it on Amazon now, and I'm working on a printed copy of the book. But it's got pictures in it, and I think it's $3.99. And try to keep it cheap so everybody can get a copy, and they can see they can get the whole story, and they can get the pictures with it as well. So I've got the book out there, and like I said, I just keep telling the story to anybody that'll listen, and I'm doing a lot of radio shows and stuff now to get the word out, and I think that there's a lot of improvement right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to learn how to use Photoshop, and I'm going to work with some of these images. I'm going to work on the image clarity and the image enhancement, so that people can see the stuff in the pictures better, And so I'm going to try to make the pictures even better, because, there are some world-class pictures and some world-class things. So I want to do the best job I can. And like I said, nobody's willing to step forward and take this stuff in on their own. So it's up to me to do it, And I don't mind doing it. I find it kind of interesting anyway, And in 2014, it just blew me away, because some software came out that allowed me to see some things that had been there all along. You just couldn't see them.
Right.
And it was smartphone software was what it was. Yeah, software for the new smartphones that had just came out. I got some new still frames that were just amazing, man, amazing, jaw-dropping stuff. And like I said, I'm going to have some pictures with me at the Aurora UFO Festival, and I'm going to show anybody that had come to our table. I'm going to be at the UFO Buster Radio with Manny, and if you want to see some of this stuff, come by and see us, and I'll be happy to show it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So that would be, what was that, April 22nd?
Yeah, April 22nd.
April 22nd, Aurora, Texas. There is the second annual alien encounter. Commemorates the Aurora crash back in 1897. So check us out. We'll be there. Come by our table, visit us. Ronny and I will be there. And like Ronny said, he'd be more than happy to share his information, his pictures and videos, whatever he has. He's really determined to make sure that the word gets out that this is a real situation. It's not something that's being made up. It's an experience he had. And I guarantee you, when I was there last year, there was a lot of people that had similar experiences with spheres and TR-3Bs and saucers all around Texas. It's a great place to meet and share stories as well.
Oh, yeah. And, I've talked to the guys. They were even talking about asking me to speak at a conference out in Arizona. So, it'd be pretty cool that someday I might actually be a UFO conference speaker. And that would be awesome.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Get to showcase my footage in front of a live crowd.
There's another convention down in Edinburgh.
Yeah, I've been reading about that. It sounds like a pretty awesome convention, too. Folks,
if you're heading out there, look for us. I think it'll be great. You can meet Manny and myself. You can meet Ronny and myself out there at the Aurora Alien Encounter. So, Ronny, any last words that you want for the folks? Anything that they need to know, especially where they can see the video?
Yeah, on the video, you can go to the Ronny Dawson YouTube channel, and I have several of the old and new videos there. Or if you want to see some of the pictures, I'll tell you something I always do is I go to Google. You could type in Ronny Dawson UFO, RONNY DAWSON UFO, and all my latest pictures are right there on Google. Google are some buddies of mine. Google has supported me from the word go, man, and my stuff is right there on the top. You type in Ronny Dawson UFO, and if I get an amazing picture, I'm going to post it on Google, and it'll be right there. I mean, it's right there, a click away. And you can see some of my stuff right now just by going to Google and just typing in Ronny Dawson UFO.
So what I'll do is, also in the show description, we'll have some of those links in there. So as you're listening to the show, if you're on a tablet or on a smartphone, you can take a look at those images and also visit Ronny's YouTube channel.
That'd be awesome, man.
Well, Ronny, it was a pleasure having you again on the show, but I look forward to the alien encounter in Aurora because I think you're going to have lots of people coming up to you, getting to hear your story firsthand.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having me, man. I always like talking on UFO Buster Radio is like coming home. I always enjoy doing your show. I always listen to your show, too. So I listen to every episode that you ever put out. So, and I'm looking forward to it as well. I have never been to this festival, so it's going to be exciting. And getting to meet some people who are into UFOs is awesome, man, because I'm tired of the criticism. I want to meet some guys who actually believe in this stuff,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Ronny.
Thank you, Manny.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
That was another great interview with Ronny Dawson. And yes, we are going to be at the Aurora Alien Encounter in Aurora, Texas. That'll be on April 22nd. The event starts at 10 a.m. and until 8 p.m. And this actually marks the 120th anniversary of the infamous 1897 UFO crash. Now, if you're thinking about going, if you're in the general area or you're flying in, I can tell you this much, that if you get your tickets before March 21st, there is a significant discount. So if you're even considering it, get it in there. I'll put the link in the description so that you can go to the website where you can buy the tickets. Just let them know Manny sent you and Ronny. So get it in there before March 21st. Get yourself a nice discount and spend a great time taking in information. And I can tell you that David Childress from Ancient Aliens will be there and a host of other guests. So check it out. If you want to follow us at UFOBusterRadio.com, you can follow UFO Buster Radio on Twitter, Manny Moonraker on Instagram and Facebook. And you can listen to us on iTunes, Spreaker, Google Play, and really in most places where you can hear a podcast, you can probably catch us there. So with that said, ciao.
Okay, UFO Buster Radio, all done. You go now. You come back tomorrow. You listen to archive. You go now. You have a nice day. Bye-bye.